Hey everybody, Bruce Bishop from the Chronicle Telegram, here with Kristen Bauer and Tom Fichenko from the Chronicle Telegram. We're at the scene of the Mardi Gras Uncle Vic's building. The fire's been burning for quite a while now. We've been taking still photos, and now we're just getting a chance to do some live video so we can show everybody what's going on. So this is the Washington Avenue side of the building. We've been hearing glass falling, and it sounds like chunks of brick falling off the side of the building. There's some concern about the roof collapsing, and there is also concern about the potential for fire to spread across to the front building, which is the Robinson building, and that's what fronts on Broad Street. So very heavy fire. We saw some photos from early in the fire and appeared to have possibly started on the second floor and then extended from there. So you can see the glow in the windows. There's still quite a bit of fire inside the building, and it's definitely still on multiple floors. You can see 3 floors are all pretty well lit. Yeah, for some people saying that they've been without power. So there's 2 things going on here. One, there are some high tension lines, which run right up there. Those run along the railroad tracks. Those have been taken down for safety purposes. And then initially, while the firefighters were putting water on it, a transformer exploded over on the west side of the building. So right now we don't have any reports of any injuries. Firefighters are staying back and away from the building. This is one of those buildings that firefighters will not go into. It's just too dangerous. There's holes throughout the building and the floors, and just basically nothing inside of it. The fire appeared to start on the opposite side of the building. That's the low end, so that's 3 or 4 stories. And then this side over here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about six stories over here. So started over on the Kerstetter Lane side and then extended all the way down across the building until it finally burned out through this side. For those just joining, I said at the beginning, there's some concern about the fire possibly extending over to the front, to the Robinson building. There's also some concern about partial roof collapse on the building. As you can also imagine, there's a lot of, everybody's here basically at this point. So this is a 3-alarm fire at the very least. So essentially every fire department in the county is here at this point. I saw a tweet earlier that Medina County is staging with water, the tankers, because as you can imagine, this puts a lot of stress on the water lines, and it does not look like they're moving a lot of water through those towers right now. That's nothing near what those things would normally run at. Correct, Eric. My understanding is the front building is not on fire. This front building is the Robinson building. They're monitoring that to make sure that the fire does not spread over to it. Cheryl. Oh, hey, Cheryl. Yeah, definitely some concern about water. I thought I heard that, but I didn't want to repeat it. I wasn't really sure. It definitely looks like they're having some water issues. That also explains the Medina County water shuttle being activated. They might be coordinating with Lorain County just to get water. Those guys can move a crazy amount of water into those pools that they set up, and then they pump that all onto the fire. Essentially what they're looking at here is they call it surround and drown. Basically, everybody just goes around the building and they protect what's called the exposure. So the Robinson building is the potential exposure. So they'll set up lines and put water between the 2 buildings, and they'll just keep pouring water into it and just try to keep everything under control and, try to prevent any sort of extension. But this building is most definitely gone at this point. There's no coming back from this. There's been a lot of talk about this building for quite a while. It's been in bad disrepair. They had a lot of problems with people coming into the building and doing damage. So this either comes down on its own tonight or it will be down fairly soon because it's completely structurally unsafe. So Washington Avenue, you can count on being closed for a while at this point. Question about how long the fire has been burning. Let me check with my coworkers out here. Do you guys know what time we got the first calls on this?
I can tell you in 1 second.
Cindy's asking what's wrong with the fire, the water. Cindy, it's just they're running so much water here. They've got multiple towers set up. So this is just on this side of the building. They have them on the other side too. So it puts such a strain on the water supply that they just can't get enough pressure to do anything with it.
Probably about 8 o'clock.
About 8 o'clock. So we believe the fire started about 8 o'clock. So the entire square, I mean, there are fire trucks everywhere. I said earlier that this was a 3-alarm fire, so they basically brought everybody in the county in. Right now, you're just kind of seeing window frames burning off here on the front. You can see a little better on the other side that there was... I'd always thought that this building was completely empty, but there appeared to be plaster and stuff on the walls, so there was still plenty of material. As far as this building and anybody being inside, no, this building is definitely empty. Hopefully there weren't any homeless people kind of camping out in there. A lot of times with these fires, it's a result of somebody who'd been living in there, squatting, and then, a cook fire or fire to stay warm gets out of control. My understanding is this building is owned by the same people that own the foundry. That's Kevin Flanagan. That's the last I knew, he was the one who owned it. So you can see, I'll go wide here. I mean, you can see what we're dealing with. So over on this side, you have the debris from the 3 or 4 buildings that were just torn down. Then this one's going to be gone here very soon. So there's going to be quite a bit of empty space up here very soon. The question about apartments, I'm sorry, no, this building was completely empty. There was nobody in the building at all. There were no residences, no businesses operating out of there, nothing at all. As far as the fire department goes, they are all working from a distance. There's nothing they can do on the inside at this point. The building's very dangerous inside. This has been on the list for a long time of buildings that the fire department just wouldn't go into. It's just too dangerous to go inside to try to put out a fire that's really not burning anything. See a question about the trains being held up. The trains are most definitely being held up at this point. There's no way they would run them through there. There's a good chance of the building collapsing. This building's had a problem with dropping bricks down onto the roadway for a long time anyway. So, in a fire like this, they definitely would. People are asking how the building caught on fire. At this point, there's no idea how the fire started. They called for arson investigators or fire investigators right away once things got going. I'm looking at this now from the Depot Street side, so I'm looking towards the east side of the building. The fire, as I understand it, and the way it looked when I got here, was that the fire started on the west side, which is the lower end of the building. It's only maybe 3 or 4 stories tall, and then the fire spread across the building and then up into the taller section. We did have a reporter out here. This is the kind of thing where, deadline's approaching and it's hard to get people to talk to. They're right in the middle of fighting the fire. I guess they did give us a minute or two. but there's really not much anybody can say at this point because there's just not much to know. Somebody's asking about the cable being out. I guess that's possible. I saw another photographer over on the other side who actually had photos of the transformer blowing up on the other side of the building, right next to where the firefighters were working. And then they also shut the power down on the large lines that are running along the railroad tracks. And these are off for safety reasons, but obviously anybody that's impacted by that transformer, that's going to be quite a while till they can repair that. I do have to say, I've heard so many people out here tonight saying that a lot of good memories there. So, between over here where you had Mardi Gras this was the warehouse was over here, and then Mardi Gras and Uncle Vic's were over there. So a lot of people were talking about how they had so many good memories in there over the years. Now, as far as other water being a problem, I'm not sure that this will have a huge impact on people in the area as far as the other water. A lot of times when they're fighting fires like these, it puts a pretty good strain on the water supply. So they'll occasionally have water line breaks in relation to the fire. This building, I was telling people earlier that this building is one of those buildings that's just on the no-go list. They wouldn't go in this building. That sounds like something just collapsed over there. This is a building they will not go into. It's a very dangerous building. There are just holes right in the middle of the floor at different places. At some point in the distant past, I don't know if it was the 60s or the 70s, there was a fire in this building and several firefighters were injured trying to put out the fire. So Jane's asking why they knocked down the old bars, the warehouse, etc. It's just these buildings were really in bad repair. Jeff Castle. Jeff, I believe you're a retired firefighter from Elyria. That's a day that firefighters definitely know about. That was a day they could have easily lost firefighters. Still, a pretty good amount of fire. We're only looking on one side here. So from the other side, there's definitely some flames still showing. I can see the glow, but there's definitely a glow still in these windows too. So there's still a lot of hot fire scattered throughout that building. And I know that sounds kind of silly to say hot fire, but there's different kinds of fire, and some of this stuff is still pretty intense. Kimberly is asking if this is a 3-alarm. Yes, Kimberly, this was a 3-alarm almost immediately. They got on scene and they knew right away that this was going to be a problem. So there are firefighters from pretty much everywhere in the county. Troy's asking if Washington Avenue has fire or still has power. It looks like Washington Avenue still has power. I'm in the 200 block over there, and I did a few minutes ago, so. Yeah, someone's saying like a brick oven. You're exactly right. So, this is all brick and concrete in there, concrete floors. And there was just a section, there's sections of brick just came down off of there. Corinne's asking about how many departments are here. Basically, every township in Lorain County is here as far as I know. We believe the fire started about 8 o'clock. There's some concern about the potential of the roof collapsing. There's also some potential about the fire, because that's it. That's how close you are to the Robinson building. So there's some concern about the fire spreading over to the Robinson building. So for the people talking about the power flickering, there would be two different times when there were power issues. One would be earlier on in the fire. There was a transformer on the west side of the building that exploded right next to where firefighters were working. And then they shut down the high tension power lines that run between the building and the railroad tracks. As far as the cause of the fire, people are asking, there's no idea what the cause of the fire was at this point. No injuries reported so far as I know at this point. I was telling people earlier that, they're working kind of from a standoff right now. They're just kind of trying to stay back and just putting water on this. Like the last fire of this magnitude would have been the General Industries fire several years ago. Douglas, thank you very much. There's apparently, and that makes sense that they might have some other departments who might not have everybody here because they do still need to cover the rest of this county.
Yeah, that'd probably be the way to do it. Do you need a phone mount? I got one handy.
Oh, I should be okay, I think.
Fire inspectors or chief or somebody's up on the fire escape at the Robinson building with a flashlight.
No, so they're checking for extension there then?
They're looking, yeah, they're
okay.
up there.
I was just talking to one of the photographers, Tom Fichenko, who said that he saw, looked like a fire inspector or an assistant chief up on the fire escape over at the Robinson building, just trying to make sure that it's not going to go ahead and extend over. So it kind of looked like this was laying down a little bit, but now you can kind of see that we're getting back into that pretty intense orange color again, right in those center windows. So Adam's asking why they're filling up trucks down the street. So they have a water supply issue right now. They just have so many of these lines running at this point that they're running into some issues. So what they do is they activate what's called the water shuttle, and that brings in all. And they can move an incredible amount of money there. They set up these pools, and they fill these trucks as they go. Somebody asking why part of it's not being sprayed. It is actually there's a lot of water you can't see. So we're on one side of this building. This is an entire block long. So they have, there's one over there. You can see they're running 2 lines off of this. And there are probably at least 2 others over on the other side of the building where this started. Dee Dee's asking how many buildings are involved. Right now it is just this building, but this building is a block long, so it's been pretty huge for them. So the fire looks like it's moving down another floor here. They're starting to get a little heavier fire down here in this next floor down. Yeah, Patty's mentioning the weather. Yeah, Patty, I can tell you what, this would have been a whole nother story a week ago. Everything would be ice. Lines would be breaking, so it would have been a real problem. Yeah, for the people asking about the cause of the fire, unfortunately, in this kind of situation, there's a really good chance they'll never know because nobody is going to go in that building. It's very dangerous. There's very little to be found at this point. It's just not something that they'll go into. Dan, there's a tower over, you can see over there. There's nobody on the railroad tracks. There might be somebody with a hand line over there, but I doubt it. These guys are over on the Washington Avenue Bridge throwing the water over to this side. Question about the Robinson building. There's no way to know. They're definitely keeping an eye on it. My understanding is there were some firefighters in the building, so they most likely have lines ready to go from the front. So they will definitely do their best to make sure it doesn't get in there. So one of the problems they're dealing with here is that's an alleyway that runs all the way down an entire block. There's no way to safely put people down there, and you can't move enough water down there to protect the building. So it's a really bad situation for all of them. So as far as I understand it, it really seemed like the fire did start on the Kerstetter side. I saw some early photos that someone had, and it really did appear that it was a fire that started on the second floor. And you could see when I shot over there earlier that there were, there's smoke coming out of the second, third, and fourth floor windows, but there didn't seem to be anything on the first floor. Patrick's asking if the building collapses, wondering if it might collapse into the Robinson building. I don't think so. This, the way this building is set up, it most likely would collapse in on itself or just kind of peel off and sort of drop to the pavement in front. This building's had a lot of problems with brick falling off of it. You can actually see on this corner over here. Let me zoom in for you guys a little bit. You can see the that whole strip there right there on that side, that light part, that's all brick that has previously fallen off of the building. So needless to say, there's going to be a lot of brick coming off the building yet tonight. Unfortunately for the people in the Robinson building, I just don't know how they avoid having major smoke damage. You can see that smoke just blowing through there. It's hours of this, so. All right, everybody, I'm getting a call from the newsroom, and our deadline is coming up, so I need to talk to some people about photos. So don't worry, I will be back with some more videos shortly, and we'll definitely be back. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will be back.
I brought you this.